Welcome to the C.S. Joseph podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph. This is season 17, part 2, episode 3. We're talking about quadra abuse, or abuse from the four quadras. The four quadras, we have Alpha Quadra, also known as the Crusaders, the Beta Quadra, also known as the Templars, the Gamma Quadra, also known as the Wayfarers, and the Delta Quadra, also known as the Philosophers. And today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Gamma Quadra, also known as the Wayfarers. Gamma Quadra is known as the pirates of the 16 types, whereas the Crusaders are the ninjas of the 16 types, but the Wayfarers are definitely the pirates. They certainly have a take what you can, give nothing back attitude oftentimes. And it's actually this attitude that is very central to how Wayfarers can actually be abusive to people in their life, such that it could actually be a really big deal, a really big problem for a lot of people, especially their loved ones. But we'll get into that detail very shortly. So the 16 types, there are 4 of the 16 types that make up the Wayfarer Quadra. That is the ESFPs, the ISFPs, the ENTJs, and the INTJs. And their cognitive origins for the ESFP and the INTJ is the cognitive origin of reverence. And reverence is all about deep respect, getting deep respect or giving deep respect, ultimately. Respect is the one thing that they crave the most out of life. And I can definitely identify with that, especially since I am an unconscious developed, unconscious focused ENTP. I'm so sensitive to being disrespected that I just instantly, I will door slam people from my life if I'm being disrespected, just like right off the bat, without any doubt to it. So, great. The other cognitive origin that is primary to the other 2 types, the ISFP and the ENTJ, is a cognitive origin known as purpose. And purpose is like, what is their purpose? What are they trying to achieve? What is the point of their existence? Basically, purpose is what they are getting out of life. Purpose is everything to those 2 types. So, because of these cognitive origins and the direction that they are going, Wayfarers, as I had explained earlier in Season 17, and if you haven't seen Season 17, make sure you go watch it. Season 17, Part 1 is available here on the YouTube channel. I believe there's like 17 or 18 episodes in it. Go ahead and check it out. I actually use Jungian analytical psychology to prove the existence of God and prove intelligent design using logic through Season 17. So you might want to check it out because it is some of my more controversial work, but then we utilize that and go directly into the existence of quadras, which is necessary. Also, ESFPs and INTJs are part of the heart temple, and ENTJs and ISFPs are part of the body temple. Heart temple is all about passion, whereas the body temple is all about legacy and having something worth leaving behind, basically. So that's the difference. That's what they are ultimately all about in general. Now, Wayfarers, this particular quadra of these types, they have extroverted sensing and introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, and introverted intuition. All 4 of these types have the same cognitive functions in their skull at the apex. So anyway, as I was saying, Wayfarers have this problem ultimately because they live so much in the moment. They're all about what they want. They're all about their status. They're all about what everyone else is thinking consistently. That they have a tendency of being entirely entitled people. And that's some of the biggest issues that, a lot of people just don't really understand. But they can be very entitled, all about what they feel, what they value, living in the moment. And oftentimes, because they live in the moment, this actually ends up supporting how they can be abusive to other people, because these types naturally are forgetful because they're extroverted sensors. And because they keep forgetting things, they oftentimes forget their failures, but not so much their failures as much as they actually forget how much they have received from other people. And this can be a really, really, really big deal. I think this is one of the reasons why they have the reputation of being pirates and take what you can and give nothing back. The deadly sin, on one side for the INTJs and ESFPs is vainglory. It's all about their own glory. It's all about glorifying themselves. It's all about their own achievements, right? And that's everything to them. Whereas the ENTJ and ISFP is the deadly sin of greed. And they can be very greedy people, taking as much as they can. But ultimately, as I explained in the Wayfarer lecture in season 17, is that part 1, is that they have a tendency to gather up for themselves treasure, and ultimately they have to go out of their way to share that treasure with other people. It's really important, and it's a really big deal. So when that happens, trying to get that treasure, etc., like they oftentimes, it's not ever really enough. And the thing is that it ends up not being enough because they already forget how much they found, how much they received, how much they already have, or how much other people have given to them. And what's even worse is that they also have a tendency to forget what they have given to others at certain times too, or at least what they haven't given to others. And that's the key. That's the key right there. And that could be really problematic, very problematic for these people and ultimately for these types. The reason why is because the way that they are abusive to other people is that they take more than they give, ultimately. They take way more than they give. These people really, really struggle showing appreciation, very much so. And the lack of appreciation and a lack of gratitude ends up becoming a big problem. Now, appreciation is attached to the extroverted feeling function. Well, guess what? All Wayfarer types really suck at extroverted feeling, especially the ENTJs. They really, really suck at extroverted feeling. They really suck caring about other people's values, making other people feel good. I mean, they could give people a good, memorable experience, but it's not going to be an experience that other people value. It's just going to be the experience that they themselves value. Almost like they like to give presents instead of giving gifts in some cases. But that's not true because ENTJs and ISFPs are so generous that they really end up enjoying giving gifts and end up giving the best gifts, although it's few and far between. There's not really a volume about it. And that ends up becoming like a big issue, a bigger problem over time. Because oftentimes, like I said, Wayfarers just keep forgetting how much they've received from other people compared to how much they have given. Here's another problem. Wayfarers, when they do give to other people, they have a tendency to overvalue what they've actually given to other people compared to what other people have given to them. Because they have this very self-centered focus, where all the focus is on themselves and not focused on other people, because they have their introverted intuition focus combined with their introverted feeling sense of self-worth and what they value, basically. And that ends up becoming like a huge problem, ultimately, overall, So most people don't even understand like how that could be a bad thing, right? Well, Wayfarers ultimately take more than they give. They do it because they forget. They do it because they overvalue what they've already given. Because sometimes, their interest-based sides, because they have interest-based sides, like INTJ has ESFP subconscious, for example, and they make the assumption, and I mean, and Wayfarers, let's be honest, Wayfarers are notorious for misjudging other people. Notorious for it. They're like walking around, they walk around as these misjudgment canisters or, like containers full of misjudgment, full of mistrust, greedy mistrust, quoting Yoda from Star Wars when I say that, because they think they know people when the reality situation is they don't. The reason why they think that is because they don't really know themselves, because they don't keep track of themselves. You know, in the Ego Hacking Your Fear course that is just about to release, we're talking about, you know, with ENTJs, and this one thing that ENTJs need to learn to do is ultimately to keep track of their failures, in some capacity, because without that, they're not going to remember anything. They're doomed to repeat the same mistakes in their life over and over and over. And it's really frustrating. It doesn't go away. It just keeps happening. So, but all the Wayfarers end up having this problem. So let's say like Wayfarer types, they end up in like a sexual relationship. And I'm not talking about just taking money or stuff. I'm also talking about time and attention. I'm talking about absorbing favors. These people absorb favors so easily. They absorb favors. They don't give any favor in return. And they have this attitude where it's like, oh, thank you for doing that. But that's all it's ever going to be. They're not really going to take action very often in your benefit when you give to them. This is one of the reasons why Crusader types become abusive themselves. I'm not saying that Crusaders are justified in becoming abusive, because Crusaders should have not given to the Wayfarers, the greedy Wayfarers, the vainglorious Wayfarers, to begin with. That was the choice on the Crusader, and the Crusader should have made their choice, and then, oh, okay, well, these people aren't reciprocating, or I communicated with them that I need them to reciprocate, and they're not reciprocating. Great. They should not be in my life anymore. And the Crusader should be cutting out the Wayfarers at that point in time. But one of the reasons why Crusader bitterness and resentment is on the rise is because Wayfarers keep taking from Crusaders and not really giving back to the Crusaders. And like I said, it really comes down to time and attention. Sure, money is worse, absolutely. But time and attention, favors, right? Even sexuality can be a huge problem. You know, like for example, Wayfarer women, especially ENTJs, wanting to always be on top, which definitely destroys the soul of a man after a while, because then he's not even able to feel masculine in the bedroom, the primary place he is supposed to be feeling masculine, which is really sad. It's actually very sad and kind of contemptuous, if you ask me. ENTJ women have to learn how to receive from a man, and it's extremely difficult for them to do so. And as much as INTP men need to learn how to give to their women instead of just gluttonously receive from them. So that can be a problem. And it continues to be a problem. So Wayfarers end up abusing people because they take more than they give. I have not really met many Wayfarers in my life who give more than they receive. They either give just as much as they receive, or they give less than they receive because they forgot already how much they did actually receive, right? Unlike philosophers, where, for example, one of the reasons why ENFPs are so charitable is because they remember everything that they have received with their introverted sensing inferior. And this is why they are so charitable, and they give to so many people through these acts of charity. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's what it means. That's what it matters to them, you know. Philosophers, at least philosophers don't do this, which is great. But Wayfarers do this. And all it does is it just ends up creating bitterness and resentment amongst their loved ones on a regular basis. And then their loved ones will start neglecting them, naturally, because that's what Crusaders do. They'll start neglecting the takers, basically, and pulling the support structure out from under Wayfarers, which, let's be honest, Wayfarers, out of all the 16 types, need support structure the most. They absolutely need support structure, because that's the only way, because without a support structure, they're not really going to be able to find their cognitive origins of reference. They're not going to be able to find their cognitive origins of purpose. And it's so funny to me because of how pragmatic the quadra of the Wayfarers is. It is the one quadra out of all of the three quadras, or the four quadras, that is entirely pragmatic. They are the pragmatic quadra, basically. They're all about mode independence. They're all about being the self-made man or the career woman, etc. The problem is, though, is that with these Wayfarers, is that they all think that they can do it alone. They all think that they can get to success by themselves. When the reality of the situation is that is entirely false. They cannot. They cannot get there all on their own. And I find it absolutely fascinating that they actually have this belief. And it's because of this belief, this myth that they believe, about themselves, that they can do everything all on their own. Because here's the reality of the situation. They're going to want to get like freaking deep respect out of life. Do you think they're going to get that status of being deep respect like by themselves? They're not. They're not going to get it by themselves. They have to have other people in their life to help them do it. The problem is that while they've been helped along the way to gain their status and whatnot, they forget about all the people that helped them get there. They forgot about the people in their support structure. And this happens over and over and over and over. It's one of the most annoying things in the world. Like, holy shit, Wayfarers, why do you folks continue to insist on being so abusive? You really can't. You really, really can't do it all on your own. You don't get to take credit for doing it all on your own either. And that's another thing you all got to realize. I mean, it's especially bad with NTJ women because they're naturally solipsistic, and sometimes they just actually believe they themselves are special enough to deserve the support structure, and that just for the sake of their own existence, that they get to take more than they give, and then they don't have to bear the responsibility of remembering anyone that helped them get to where they are. Wow, that's ridiculous. I have seen, and these are the people, Wayfarers are the people, like if you're in their job, like these are the people who climb the corporate ladder, and these are the people who will step on you to get to where they're going. They will step on you and use you as another step in the ladder to get to their specific achievement, to get to their specific goal. And let's say they do use you and you have followed them, to that end. Let's say you got them to that point. Let's say, they finally got the director position or the vice presidency, or maybe they became CEO of the company. Who knows, right? Let's say that they finally did that. Do you honestly believe that these people are actually going to remember that you helped them get there to begin with? Probably not, because they won't, because they don't care. That's the point. They really don't care. I wish they would care. I really wish they would, but they don't care. They never will care, okay? Unless they actually learn to practice gratitude. And it's not enough to just say thank you to somebody. Not enough. They have to practice gratitude by proving gratitude, which means using their introvert intuition, because introvert intuition is known as the asking function, whereas introverted sensing is known as the sharing function. Sharing versus asking, right? Sharing versus asking. So, introvert intuitives, which guess what? The four Wayfarers are, if they start asking people what other people need and then fulfill that need, then all of a sudden they are proving gratitude. They go back to the people who make up part of their support structure and ask people what their needs are, and then they fill those needs. Because guess what? Wayfarers are the neediest of all of the 16 types. They're the ones who need support structure the most. Therefore, it is their responsibility to remember their support structure instead of abuse their support structure and take it for granted. I loathe being taken for granted. And I have never felt more taken for granted in my life than when it came to Wayfarers, for sure. That's what they do. They take people for granted. They take their support structure for granted, when what they should be doing is supporting their support structure and remembering their support structure after the support structure supported them. That includes their parents. Doesn't even matter if they have a good relationship with their parents or not. It doesn't matter. It's still their responsibility. Parents had you, parents raised you, take responsibility, prove your gratitude by finding their need, asking people what their needs are, and fulfilling that need. It's that simple, Wayfarers. It's that simple. This is how you stop being abusive. This is how you stop taking more than you have received. Because it doesn't even matter if you can remember what others have given to you, or if you can remember the kind of support that you received from others. Because you've humbled yourself enough to realize that you couldn't have been successful, you couldn't have made it on your own, right? That's the whole point. You couldn't have made it on your own. A lot of people don't even realize that. A lot of people don't even accept that. So, as a result, you got to realize the truth. Ask of people what they need and give it to them. Make it happen. This is what makes you not be abusive. You don't even have to remember what people have given to you. It's just use your extroverted thinking, categorize certain people in your life as these people are my support structure, and then you give to them. Ask them what they need, and if they need anything, you give it to them. If it is within your power to give it to them, you give it to them without question. They will continue to be loyal to you. They will continue to support you. You are basically helping yourself. Instead of being an abusive twat, like almost every Wayfarer that I know tends to be when it comes to people in their support structure. I have been part of Wayfarer support structure my entire life. And my Effie child absolutely knows when it's being taken advantage of. It absolutely knows when it's being taken for granted. And almost every single Wayfarer that I have come into contact has treated me this way. It took me a long time to stop being a people pleaser and cut them out of my life before it would get out of hand. That way I wouldn't turn into a resentful, bitter ass, basically, and become abusive myself. So I had to learn how to cut them off. So anyway, Wayfarers, if you have anyone in your orbit that is part of your support structure and you are not regularly fulfilling their needs, regardless of how much these people give to you or not, regardless of whether or not you can remember that or not, get off your ass and do it. It's not about whether or not you owe them. It's about you being a good person. That's what that's about. Because you may not be able to put their time and attention in terms of dollars and cents on a piece of paper. But that doesn't mean you are entitled to those people's time and attention either. And I'm so tired of Wayfarers thinking that just because there's nothing in writing, that means they are entitled to that person's time and attention. It is egregious. It is disgusting. It is something that I will not stand for. And if I find, as soon as I come into contact with a Wayfarer, I instantly have them on notice mentally. It's like, okay, I'm going to give to this person. Let's see if they give back to me. Let's see. Let's see if they actually care enough about me as a person in their life, as someone who is in their support structure, to actually give back to me. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see what their character looks like as my INTJ shadow decides to test their character because of the soul temple influence upon my unconscious. Let's see if they can. And if they fail that test, I cut them out of my life. Because, I know my value. I'm brilliant. And most Wayfarers I meet, I am usually the most intelligent person that they've ever encountered in their life. And as a result of that, I have the propensity to solve problems. You know, John Bodine basically refers to me as life's cheat code. Chase knows everything about everything and can solve so many problems across any type of situation relating to health, wealth, and relationships. Oh my God. So there's your, and I'm the walking cheat code, the cheat code for the Wayfarers. So yeah. Well, if you want to use the cheat code, maybe you should take care of your cheat code, because that way the cheat code is going to want to stick around. Wayfarers, you want to know the reason why people aren't loyal to you? It's because you're abusive. That's the reason. You're abusive because you take more than you give, and you entirely forget about your support structure. You forget about all the people in your life that have supported you and got you to where you are now. And for some reason, you all think that you are the one that made it happen, when the reality of the situation is you wouldn't have been able to get anywhere without your support structure. And that's the truth. The blatant, God-honest truth. So, anyway, folks, thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.